Welcome back to Get Better, Get Smarter with Tariq. So for the last videos, I have been talking about the island of Dr. Moreau, iRobot, Pygmalion effect, the Lucifer effect. There's a reason. We go down inside the fog, in the world of smokes and mirrors, false ideologies, false concepts, fake history, reality as it is, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, hidden, the Jekyll, always trying to obtain advantages for me. So today we will talk about the consequences of manifest destiny, divine right, gaslighting, war, gold, and survival. We will talk about the connection between war, gold, and survival. We talked about piracy, which is the other side of slavery, which is the other side of money laundering, which is how America got great. Not because they're so smart. First, they got all the immigrants to steal the gold. The Texas gold, California gold, Alaska gold, the gold of America. And the people who lived in America for thousands and thousands of years were American Indians. And their land was rich beyond dreams. And they were robbed. And in 100 years, the immigrants from Europe had stolen everything. Just like the British in India. When they arrived in 1750, 1800, India was the richest place on earth for hundreds and hundreds of years. 100 years later, 1900, the British had robbed almost everything. But the law of karma, what happened after 1900? The First World War, the Second World War, they lost everything. The British, for 100 years, stole. And then in 50 years, they lost everything. And their population has been declining. They have been disappearing. Which is what has happened to Europe and America. With all the imperialism and non-stop wars and hate and stealing other people's lands and commodities and ideas and history, they have been reduced to insignificance. And this is what's happening to America. It's not because of the Chinese or anybody else. It's because they didn't invest in education, culture. They didn't create honest relationships. They were fooling everybody with the World Bank, the IMF. It's all for me, nothing for anybody. They used money laundering for 30 years to get rich and lend this money at exorbitant interest rates to Brazil, to Russia, to Southeast Asia. That's why we had the banking crisis of Southeast Asia, of Russia, of Brazil and Argentina in the 80s and 90s. Because the drug money of the cartels, the Colombian Mexican cartels, was repurposed as loans for the third world. And on the other hand, in return for these loans, American military bases and selling arms to the guys that they kept. They're bastards. And this happened for 50 years after the Second World War. But it had been happening for 100 years, 150 years before the Second World War. And war is the consequence of you trying to fool everybody, steal whatever you can in any way. People find out, they get smart. And there's no point blaming the Chinese, or in the 1980s, when I was studying in America, it was the Colombians, it was the drug lords. But the Americans were refinancing them with money laundering. And then it was the Islamic terrorists, and they were trained by the CIA to keep the governments in check so that they would do what the Americans wanted them to do. And then the Russians are the bad guys. Let's surround them. Well, the Ukraine war was because of that. There was no need to surround Russia and suffocate them. And now the bad guys are the Chinese. Soon they will be the Indians or the Africans. It's very, very sad that for hundreds of years this has been going on, and for a long time nobody really understood. Some people like me who study history, the context, what really happened, who research, due diligence, who look into it, deep dive, what's really going on. My grandma used to talk about India when the British were arriving, how rich it was. And I grew up in a palace full of sapphires and rubies and diamonds and wonderful, wonderful environment. And then everything disappeared. It's non-stop war. And in the First World War, Second World War, whatever the British lost, they stole from India. And after the Second World War, they defaulted on 55,000 tons of Indian gold, saying that they needed it for their war recovery, that they saved the world, so this money should be theirs. And India was so divided and weak, they couldn't do anything. And nobody knows about this. And there's so many other stories of how African gold and Indian, African, Chinese treasures were stolen. How the gold of the Aztecs and Incas was stolen. And it all ended up in one place in Europe. And where is Europe now? It's collapsing. Economically, politically, demographically. So all the evil things that you do come back to you. It's the law of karma. People hate you. They don't want to do business with you. And you can say that this time will be different. It's never different. Trump is back again. It's the same thing. Trade war and hate everybody and blame the Canadians and Mexicans. Now he's blaming everybody because the situation is worse. Instead of fixing your house while the sun is still shining. Because when it starts storm, raining heavily, then it's too late to fix your farm, your house. And instead of fixing themselves, the Europeans and Americans have been involved in military coups, invading other countries, buying governments, selling arms. Now, time is up. Okay? The Grim Reaper has come. And there's nothing to show. For the last 50 years, all the money from drug money laundering has disappeared. It has created 2 generations of drug addicts. And now it's a complicated world. So the money laundering has gone to Dubai and Hong Kong. And the cartels have globalized. So, whereas we had the Medellin cartel, the Cali cartel, the Mexican cartels, now there are cartels everywhere. It's the easiest, quickest way of making money. And the banks launder the money. Countries launder money. Because there's war everywhere. Many of them don't have any alternatives. There's no access to liquidity without cash. How can you open a company, a factory? This is why the Indians and Chinese are so important. The Chinese are all over the world building factories and ports, helping people become clients, helping people survive for the future. And the Indians are going everywhere, helping them in shopping malls, selling, doing business in offices. The Indians dominate in the world of offices and business. The Chinese in the world of manufacturing and high technology. We have to understand that. Jeffrey Sachs said that in 2015, the Chinese plan of being the leader in 2025 in high tech, in 10 sectors, they are number 1 in 8 sectors. What is happening today is envy of China's progress, is envy of India's soft power, global power. All the countries are visiting India for trade deals. And thousands of people are going to China for the trade fairs, where they are seeing the future. The super motorcycles and bikes and factories. And so, on one side, it's the same story as Rome. It's war, hate the others are barbarians, close the gates. On the other side, the whole world is getting together under the BRICS banner, under the New World Order, that if you want to have tariffs, we will have zero. So this whole world now has zero tariffs, and the Chinese are inviting everybody to see the future. And the Indians are welcoming everybody so that people understand that you can live together like in India, 1.5 billion people of 3,000 different languages, but they can get together if you have a culture of peace and prosperity. So, we are in 2025, in April. We've had so many problems. Not only since 2020, the COVID era, 5 years of Ukraine war, Palestine war, and war everywhere in the north, in the south, in the east and the west. But the real situation began in the year 2000. What am I talking about? 25 years ago, yes. When NASDAQ crashed. All the money laundering, excess of profitability, 50% was spent investing in any kind of tech. Tech is the way, tech is the future, tech. And the rest, send all the factories to China. We will lend everybody money. The houses increased, everybody had a lot of money, soft loans, easy living. And let the Chinese and Indians do all the work. And then NASDAQ crashed because they realized it was hollow. There was no essence. You cannot become a genius, a manufacturing hub of the world in 3-4 years. It takes 20 to 30 years to develop infrastructure, clusters, connectivity, which is what the Chinese have done. So the NASDAQ crash created a generalized panic in the United States. The leaders of the companies went to Wall Street and abandoned High Street. The others started investing in war everywhere, the war industry, create weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass distraction, keep everybody fooled, Hollywood. So if people remember America in the year 2000 to 2005, it was hallelujah, Hollywood, wow, Florida. It was all drug money. It was all an illusion. And what happened in 2007, 2008? The Dow Jones crashed, the housing crashed, because it was a house of cards, and it crashed. Then, what was the solution? Print money, print money. $1 trillion of debt became 10, became 20. Today, it's $38 trillion debt. From 2010 to today, nobody's making money. It's just printing money. Valuation. The house is from 300 to 500,000. People have not made money. It's just valuation from oversupply of liquidity. Money being printed, money being printed. And what is the proof? Debts. The US government debt is around 40 trillion. The people's debt, the country's debt is over 200 trillion. And other countries have followed the same example. If they can do it, we can do it too. Everybody is printing debt after debt. There is no more profitable business. You just borrow money and kick the can down the road. Everybody, all the companies, the countries have become rolling stones. You're kicking the can down the road. You're not fixing your house while the sun is shining. The sun has stopped shining. And then in 2012, we had the euro crash. 2014, the commodity crash. 2016, trade Trump wars 1.0. Now trade Trump wars 2.0. And in between we had the COVID. Then we had the Russia, Ukraine war, and so on and so forth, non-stop horrors. It all began in 2000, when all the money of 25, 30 years of money laundering from cartels was wasted, and people became entitled to soft loans, easy living, and they didn't realize that it takes 20, 30 years of study, hard work, saving to create a life, and in 2, 3 years you throw it all away. And so we have sports betting, fentanyl, drugs everywhere, wars everywhere, young men being seduced to becoming mercenaries or selling drugs or becoming part of cartels. And we have an increase of feminicide, an increase of all kinds of deaths. So I wanted to begin 2025 and arrive at this point before the month of May or during the month of May, so that people have an idea that whatever is happening has a context. And the context is not 25 years since the crash of the NASDAQ, since 2000. We had 11th of September 2001 too, but before that, what happened in the Second World War and the First World War? What was it about? It was all about war, machines, spending all the money that they stole from the Third World in war machines. And of course, if you're surrounded by something, it swallows you up. Machines everywhere, killing machines. They started killing each other. So, think about everything that I have mentioned sequentially. Watch the videos. The videos, conceptual videos that I show. What is the Pygmalion effect? What is the Lucifer effect? How did we get to where we are today? How we got here? The divine right of kings, the manifest destiny, I was born to rule. All of these concepts have been, for hundreds of years, creating a mindset, a fixed mindset of hate, of imperialism, of racism. And this is today exactly the consequence of the sequences that I have been showing. We have to go a little bit deeper, a little bit further, and a little bit more professional. Instead of taking sides, we have to see what are we really talking about. Thank you very, very much for being patient. I know it's not in 5 or 10 or 20 minutes that people are going to get it. Watch the video again, start from the beginning. Do some binging, watch 4 or 5 videos, spend some time understanding. I'm not interested in thousands of views. People are not going to change their lives from NBA and war and news and gossip and all that to things that I am talking about. But a few people can benefit a lot from having a second chance at reviewing what's happening, what happened, and resetting your life for a better, smarter life. And this is the soul, the heart and soul of my channel and of my life, so that I can share this concept of get better and get smarter and build a better life and a smarter life for yourself and for everybody around you. This is not what's happening. This is not what's there around us. So we have to double our efforts. Thank you very much.